All eyes now on the crucial bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Indian origin US Vice President Kamala Harris. This will be the first in-person meeting of the Prime Minister and the US Vice President. This meeting is being seen as a coming-of-age moment. Take a look.
Adoring Indian crowds welcoming the Indian Prime Minister. NRIs and American Desis have always flaunted their affection for Modi. But there's one American of Indian origin with whom Modi hasn't always shared a very warm connect. We're talking about US Vice President Kamala Harris. Just past midnight tonight, India time, Prime Minister Modi will meet the first ever person of Indian origin to be elected Vice President of the United States. The two leaders last spoke on the phone during the peak of the COVID crisis, when Prime Minister Modi thanked her for the support and solidarity from the US government and Indian diaspora. But tonight's meeting in Washington, D.C. brings them face to face for the first time. When Kamala Harris invoked her aunts back in Tamil Nadu during her election campaign,
family is my uncles, my aunts, and my chittis.
Prime Minister Modi was quick to latch on and say that her victory was a matter of immense pride, not just for her chittis, but also for all Indian Americans.
The Indian diaspora are quite excited with regards to how the relations have moved forward between India and the United States of America, and that certainly is going to be a topic of discussion between the two countries. But there are areas of concern that could really come up between the two sides. Kamala Harris is known to speak about and be quite vocal of human rights issues, but when it comes to India, she has been rather cautious.
With strong left-leaning views, Kamala Harris has been frequently vocal about right-wing politics, including the brand of politics espoused by India's ruling BJP. Vice President Harris has also articulated strong views about Kashmir that don't quite align with the Indian government's. Her views on democracy and pluralism have frequently been thinly disguised attacks on the perceived communal atmosphere in India. Kamala Harris was also conspicuous by her absence at the mega Howdy Modi event in Houston in September 2019. A decision that was seen as her frowning upon the Modi-Trump bonhomie and their individual political styles.
Family is our...
And let me take you straight to Washington, D.C. at the Willard Hotel. These are images of the Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. These are images just coming in. Of course, a little later from now, the Prime Minister will be meeting Kamala Harris, the US Vice President. These are images from earlier yesterday when Prime Minister Narendra Modi had landed in Washington, D.C. A large number of Indian Americans gathered to meet the Prime Minister, not just at the Andrews Joint Air Force Base, but also at the hotel. And these are images that are just coming in. That's the Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. His mask, of course, the flag of his country, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is a very, very important meeting. Remember, India and Australia, they've just had a 2+2 meeting, a 2+2 dialogue, which is the defense and the foreign ministers of India and Australia. The Prime Minister is flanked by the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and the National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, because that shows the importance and the significance of this meeting. You also have the Foreign Secretary, Harsh Shringla, who was our ambassador to the United States of America, and of course India's ambassador to the United States of America in these images. This is a very, very important meeting, and this is a meeting that will make China very uncomfortable. Remember, there will be a Quad summit that will be held tomorrow, and this will be the first in-person Quad. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, joining us live from Washington, D.C. for more on this big story. Geeta, India and Australia, they've just had a 2+2 meetings of the defense and foreign ministers of two countries, and now the summit. This just shows how important Australia is for India.
Well, it is. It is a big moment for the Australian Prime Minister himself. He's had a lot of criticism that he's had to face because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now he's on a different high. We have the Quad, we have the India-Australia 2+2, the first of its kind, and then the AUKUS military alliance. At the backdrop of all that has happened for Australia when it comes to security, military and economic alliances and cooperation, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Scott Morrison are at this hotel, Hotel Willard, right now. He just came to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the conversations have begun. That's his cavalcade right behind me, the only cavalcade of a high delegation visit is to the United States of America that has been allowed right in front of Hotel Willard. Otherwise, this entire area is completely blockaded, and no vehicles can really cross or pass the road that approaches Hotel Willard. So Gaurav, the meeting has begun, very specific in terms of substance. It is going to be a very important meeting. This comes a day ahead of the Quad summit that is to take place, the first in-person Quad summit tomorrow, and the bilaterals will continue through the day. But this one is a significant one because India-Australia are taking ties to a new level, to a different level altogether. But Australia also comes with the high of a military alliance with the United States of America and United Kingdom. We are looking at economic cooperation between the two sides, but also the counter-China strategy continues. The conversations that Australia and India have had have completely dealt with and focused on one aspect also, and that has to do with China. Supply chain resilience is a part of that. Global supply chain and how India and Australia can best contribute to that global supply chain and not be as dependent as these countries have been on China.
In fact,
is a conversation that will take
absolutely.
place.
It is Australia that really took the lead in taking on and fighting back when it came to Chinese belligerence, the way India reacted initially in Doklam in 2017 and then in Ladakh. That, of course, was military. But as far as Australia is concerned, Australia did not buckle under Chinese pressure despite the trade sanctions, the acrimony, the harsh words that came from China. Australia took the lead. India took the lead. Others are following. And China would be greatly unhappy or unnerved by four powerful democracies coming together: Australia, India, Japan, and the United States of America.
Well, Gaurav, we have seen a very riled Beijing. The kind of statements that have come in from China, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing have already threatened and warned the Quad leadership as also the AUKUS leadership of ramifications if they continue with such alliances. But the countries are undeterred because it is a matter of national security now and also of global security. Securing the Indo-Pacific is priority, not just for India, the United States of America, Australia, US and UK, but the international community. And these are the countries that can take a lead on that front. When India speaks, India does not just speak for herself. And I keep saying that, Gaurav, because it's the smaller countries in the region that need the bigger countries to take the lead. And that's why these countries need to come together to protect the interests of the smaller island nations that have suffered the wrath of China and have been victim of Chinese, not just belligerence, but the aggression that they've seen in the way and the manner in which the military exercises or actions are taken in the Indo-Pacific region, particularly South China Sea. So we are looking at an alliance that really does not just contain or is looking at containing China, but is trying to message out to China that no country and no region will be taking the kind of aggressive posturing that we've seen or the aggression that we've seen from China. And that's the message that comes from these grouping. It's not an anti-China grouping, but it is one that will allow space to every other country and will allow freedom of navigation to every country, which includes the smaller nations who need to be represented by the larger ones.
Oh, absolutely. And Geeta, before I let you go, there are two big terms that are coming in at this point of time. One is Quad. As we look at these images of India, US bilateral, Geeta, what's also extremely significant is AUKUS and Quad. Now, when we talk about AUKUS, which is Australia, United Kingdom and United States, these three countries in a military alliance for a nuclear submarine, that in no way, Geeta, shows that importance of Quad is going down. In times to come, AUKUS will complement Quad.
That's right. There is a line of thinking that says that AUKUS is required for Australia. Just a Quad kind of alliance is not enough for an Australia that, like you rightly pointed out, Gaurav, is very aggressively taking on China. They need the wherewithal to withstand the Chinese aggression, and that's why this military alliance was important. Quad is beyond that, and that's why officials that we've been speaking to, who are a part of the entire deliberations of with regards to Quad, said that it is not going to impact Quad. If anything, it is going to complement Quad in the Indo-Pacific region. But Gaurav, might I just add that while you're looking at a change of theater from Afghanistan to Indo-Pacific, China being the focus, no country, neither Quad nor the AUKUS alliance, should forget that security and stability in Afghanistan is critical and crucial for global security. And that's the reason why during the Quad conversations, while China will be focused, Afghanistan certainly will also be discussed.
Oh, Geeta, we will talk about Afghanistan in greater detail. But for the moment, I want our viewers to take a look at why this Quad summit, the first in-person Quad summit, becomes extremely critical in the face of the Chinese belligerence, in the face of the Taliban threat. Leaders of India, United States of America, Australia and Japan will meet for the first time in person in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Ahead of that crucial meeting, Prime Minister is having this one-on-one with the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison right now, and with Yoshihide Suga in a couple of hours from now. We bring you this report.
The exclusive club of 4 of the world's top leaders. For the first time, all the Quad leaders sitting across the table. President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, the Australian and Japanese premiers meet on Friday to brainstorm on global and regional issues. The focus is the Indo-Pacific, but the summit, being held in an eventful year, will discuss the pandemic response, particularly strengthening the vaccine supply chain, along with climate change and education.
Primarily, the focus is going to be how to ensure that China and Chinese aggression is contained in the entire Indo-Pacific region. There are many areas that will be covered when it comes to alliances, but also the focus will remain counter-terrorism, post-COVID recovery, is also supply chain resilience. These are very important aspects, but terrorism and the situation in Afghanistan certainly are going to be key.
Ahead of the Quad summit, Prime Minister Modi will have one-on-one talks with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. And 3 hours before the 4 leaders meet, the Prime Minister will hold his first bilateral meeting with President Biden. The summit in Washington will be closely monitored 11,000 kilometers away in Beijing. The quadrilateral grouping aims at countering the growing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific region. Quad's target is a free and open Indo-Pacific, unconstrained by coercion. It's an informal strategic dialogue between 4 like-minded nations to negate China's expansionism. The first in-person summit of the Quad comes at an important time, with the Indo-Pacific undergoing a geopolitical churn. And with Biden taking the lead in hosting it, the United States is signaling its resolve to defend its interest in the Indo-Pacific. With Geeta Mohan in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.